understanding Oklahoma City through the lens of hypernormalization, the illusion of progress and the reality of control. Adam Curtis's Hypernormalization presents a chilling thesis. The world we live in is an elaborate fiction, managed and maintained by those in power to create an illusion of stability and progress, while real agency is ceded to hidden financial and political forces. Applying this framework to Oklahoma City, we see a case study of this phenomenon at work, a place where civic boosters, corporate interests, and a pliant political class manufacture a vision of progress that obscures deep structural stagnation and growing inequality. At the heart of this dynamic sits Mayor David Holt, a man whose political career exemplifies the aesthetics of change without its substance. Holt, who positions himself as a modern, progressive, civic-minded leader, functions less as an agent of grassroots transformation and more as a steward of corporate and elite interests. His governance operates within the carefully curated narratives crafted by entities such as the Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce and VI Marketing, organizations whose primary function is not economic revitalization in any substantive sense, but rather the perpetuation of a managed perception of growth and vitality. The Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce operates as the primary architect of the city's hyper-normalized reality. Much like the shadowy forces Curtis describes in his documentary, the Chamber constructs a version of Oklahoma City that is meant to be consumed, not questioned. It exists to ensure that corporate and private equity interests maintain control of the city's development while obscuring any class-conscious discourse that might challenge that control. Consider the recently approved plan for a new Thunder Arena, sold to the public as an economic engine for the city's future. Behind the sleek presentations and public enthusiasm cultivated by the Chamber, the reality is that such projects overwhelmingly benefit a small cadre of business elites. As Curtis' framework suggests, these initiatives are less about true economic stimulus and more about maintaining an illusion of forward momentum. A spectacle designed to reassure the public that Oklahoma City is on the rise, even as real wages stagnate, public services remain underfunded, and the city's working class is increasingly priced out of its own growth. VI Marketing and Branding is another key player in maintaining Oklahoma City's hyper-normalized narrative. This marketing firm specializes in the fabrication of civic optimism, expertly packaging policies and initiatives in ways that transform critique into complicity. Much like the role of media in Curtis's documentary, VI Marketing does not sell products, it sells an ideology, an artificial sense of civic engagement that discourages deeper scrutiny of the forces shaping the city. This can be seen in the relentless emphasis on placemaking, a term borrowed from urban planning that, in its Oklahoma City iteration, translates to gentrification under the guise of progress. Campaigns framed around branding the city as a hip, modern and welcoming environment obscure the underlying reality, an economy increasingly structured around precarious service jobs, a downtown that caters to tourists and white-collar professionals while ignoring the struggles of working-class residents, and an infrastructure designed more for spectacle than for sustainability. David Holt's role in this system is that of the consummate hyper-normalized politician. He is the friendly face of an agenda that serves corporate and real estate interests while presenting himself as a moderate, pragmatic and civic-minded leader. Much like the political figures in Hypernormalization, Holt does not engage with the city's most pressing issues, such as its housing crisis, its deep racial and economic divides, or the exploitative nature of its labor market in any meaningful way. Instead, he participates in a carefully managed discourse that prioritizes optics over substance. For example, Holt's emphasis on Oklahoma City's renaissance through MAPS initiatives continues the long tradition of selling public investment in infrastructure as a solution to systemic economic inequality. While MAPS has certainly improved the city's aesthetic appeal and introduced some functional improvements, it has done little to address the fundamental power imbalances that leave much of the city's population in economic precarity. This is the core of hypernormalization. Policies are created not to resolve the underlying issues, but to create the illusion that they are being addressed. The greatest trick of hypernormalization is its ability to make people accept an artificial reality as inevitable. In Oklahoma City, residents are encouraged to celebrate the city's progress without questioning who benefits from it. Public-private partnerships are framed as the only viable economic model, despite ample evidence from other cities that they often serve as vehicles for transferring public wealth into private hands. The city's continued reliance on policing and punitive measures to manage poverty, rather than systemic investment in affordable housing, healthcare and education, goes unchallenged in mainstream civic discourse. Meanwhile, as Oklahoma City is sold as a big league city, homelessness rises, wages remain stagnant and the wealth gap grows. The city's leadership maintains the narrative that things are improving, even as an increasing number of residents struggle with the cost of living. In this sense, Oklahoma City is not a city on the rise. It is a city in a carefully managed holding pattern, where the symbols of progress are deployed to obscure its underlying stagnation. Understanding Oklahoma City through the framework of hypernormalization reveals a city where managed perception has replaced genuine civic engagement. The Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce and VI Marketing ensure that the narrative of growth and opportunity remains intact, while leaders like David Holt serve as conduits for corporate interests under the guise of civic progressivism. The task for those who see through this illusion is not merely to critique it, but to imagine alternative structures of governance and economic organization that prioritize people over profit, reality over spectacle. As Adam Curtis suggests, the first step toward breaking free from hypernormalization is to recognize it for what it is. Only then can Oklahoma City's residents move beyond the manufactured consensus of its leadership and begin building a city that serves the many rather than the few.